Wait, don't scroll. Just give me 60 seconds, that's all I'm asking. Not because I need your time, but because something in you paused for a reason. Something in you felt this pull, even if you don't understand it yet. And I know, part of you is tired of messages like this. Tired of being told you're different. Tired of hearing words that feel powerful for a moment but disappear the second the video ends. But this is different. Because I'm not here to hype you up. I'm here to reflect something back to you that you've been quietly carrying for a long time. You've been moving through life feeling slightly out of place. Not completely lost, but not fully aligned either. Like you can function, you can smile, you can show up. But deep down, there's this quiet awareness that something about you doesn't fit into the patterns around you. And maybe you've tried to ignore it. Maybe you told yourself it's overthinking. Maybe you tried to blend in more, speak less, shrink your presence just enough so you wouldn't feel that tension. But it never fully went away, did it? Because what you're feeling isn't confusion, it's awareness. And awareness is uncomfortable before it becomes clarity. There was a phase where things started to shift inside you. You began noticing what drains you, what feels forced, what doesn't match who you're becoming. Conversations that once felt normal started feeling heavy. Environments you used to tolerate began to feel suffocating. Not because something is wrong with the world, but because something is changing within you. And that change didn't feel empowering at first. It felt like disconnection. It felt like losing interest in things that once gave you comfort. Like standing in familiar places but feeling like a stranger. Like watching your own life from a slight distance, trying to understand where you truly belong. That's the part no one talks about. Growth doesn't always feel like progress. Sometimes it feels like everything is falling apart. But look closer. You're not falling apart. You're becoming more honest. You're starting to recognize what actually aligns with you, instead of what you were taught to accept. And that's why things feel different now. You don't react the same way anymore. Situations that once triggered you, now just make you observe. You're less interested in proving yourself, less drawn to noise, less willing to chase things that don't feel real. You're becoming more still, but also more aware, and that can feel confusing. Because the world often rewards loudness, speed, and constant movement. But you're stepping into something quieter, something deeper. You're learning how to pause before you speak, how to think before you react, how to protect your energy without needing to explain yourself to everyone. That's not weakness, that's control. And the more you step into this, the more you start to notice something powerful. You don't need as much external validation as you once did. You're starting to trust your own perception, your own instincts, your own sense of direction, even if you don't have everything figured out yet. That's where your real identity begins to form. Not based on what others expect from you, but based on what feels true to you. And here's the part that might challenge you. This version of you requires courage. Not loud, dramatic courage. Quiet courage. The kind that shows up when you choose not to go back to what once felt comfortable but no longer feels right. The kind that stands firm even when no one understands your decisions. Because growth will test you like that. It will ask you to outgrow environments, habits, and even mindsets that once defined you. And that's not easy. But every time you choose alignment over comfort, you reinforce who you're becoming. You prove to yourself that you're not here to just repeat patterns. You're here to evolve. And no, that doesn't mean everything becomes perfect. You'll still have moments of doubt. Days where you question your direction. Times where you feel like you're moving slower than everyone else. But here's the truth. You're not behind. You're just moving with intention now. And that changes everything. Because once you start living intentionally, even small steps carry more meaning. Even silence carries more power. Even stillness becomes a form of progress. So if you've made it this far, if you gave me more than 60 seconds, then maybe you needed this reminder more than you realized. Not that you're special in some unreachable way, but that you're aware. And awareness, when nurtured, becomes transformation. So don't rush this process. Don't force clarity. Let yourself grow into it. Because the version of you that's emerging right now is not trying to be louder, bigger, or more accepted. It's trying to be real. And real always lasts longer than temporary validation. So take this moment with you. Move differently. Protect your focus. And trust that even when it feels slow, you're building something solid within yourself. And if this message connected with something inside you, then stay close to spaces that remind you of who you're becoming. This is Last Call for the Chosen. And this might be exactly the moment you stopped ignoring yourself. And the deeper you go into this version of yourself, the more you start to notice something subtle but powerful, shifting in the way you see everything around you. It's not just about your habits anymore, it's about your perception. You begin to see through things you once accepted without question. Patterns in people, patterns in conversations, even patterns in your own behavior that you never noticed before. And this awareness, it can feel isolating. Because once you see clearly, it's hard to pretend you don't. There will be moments where you sit in a room full of people and still feel alone. Not because you don't belong, but because your mind is no longer operating on the same level of distraction. You're not as easily entertained by surface-level things anymore. You're searching for depth now. Meaning, truth. And that search will naturally separate you from certain environments. Not permanently, but enough to show you what truly aligns and what doesn't. That's part of the process. You're not losing connection, you're refining it. And as this refinement happens, you'll also notice something else. Your tolerance for anything that drains you starts to disappear. Things you used to ignore now feel impossible to overlook. The way someone speaks to you, the energy behind certain interactions, the way some situations leave you feeling heavy instead of uplifted. You're not becoming too sensitive. You're becoming more aware of what affects your internal state. And once you recognize that, you can't keep betraying yourself just to maintain comfort. So you start making small changes. You pull back where you once overextended. You say less where you once tried to explain everything. You observe more instead of reacting instantly. And slowly, your energy begins to feel different. More controlled, more intentional, less scattered. But here's the part that most people misunderstand. This phase is quiet. It's not flashy. It doesn't always look like success from the outside. In fact, to others it might look like you're doing less. But internally you're building more than ever before. You're strengthening your awareness, your discipline, your ability to stand on your own thoughts without needing constant reassurance. And that kind of growth takes time. There will be moments where you question it, where you wonder if you're overthinking everything, if you're pulling away too much, if you're changing in ways that might cost you certain connections. And yes, some things may shift, but not everything that leaves your life is a loss. Some things were only meant to stay until you became aware enough to outgrow them. And that doesn't make you cold. It makes you honest. Because real growth isn't about holding on to everything. It's about recognizing what truly deserves your energy and choosing accordingly. Now listen closely, because this part matters more than you think. As you continue evolving, you're going to feel a strong urge to go back sometimes. Back to old habits, old ways of thinking, even old versions of yourself that felt easier to maintain. Not because they were better, but because they were familiar. Familiarity feels safe, even when it's limiting. But every time you choose to move forward instead of going back, you strengthen something inside you that can't be taken away. Self-trust. And once self-trust becomes solid, everything changes. You stop second-guessing every decision. You stop needing constant approval. You stop shrinking yourself just to fit into spaces that don't feel right. You begin to move with quiet certainty, not loud confidence, not forced positivity, just a grounded understanding of who you are and what you're no longer willing to compromise. And that kind of presence, it speaks without needing to say much at all. People will notice it. Not because you're trying to stand out, but because you're no longer trying to blend in. And that's where your real strength shows. Not in how much noise you can make, but in how steady you can remain, even when everything around you feels uncertain. So if you're in this phase right now, where things feel unclear, quiet, maybe even a little uncomfortable, understand this. You're not stuck. You're stabilizing. You're learning how to hold your own energy without being pulled in every direction. You're learning how to exist without constantly reacting to everything around you. And that takes time. So don't rush to become something overnight. Don't force yourself into a version that looks impressive but doesn't feel real. Let this process shape you properly. Because when you finally step into full alignment with yourself, it won't feel rushed, it won't feel forced, it will feel natural and unshakable. So stay with it. Even on the days where it feels slow, even on the days where it feels uncertain. Because every moment you choose awareness over autopilot, you're moving closer to the version of yourself that doesn't need to pretend anymore. And that version is worth everything you're going through right now. If this message is still with you, if something in you is still listening, then don't ignore that. There's a reason you stayed. There's a reason this resonated. So take this as your reminder. You don't need to rush. You don't need to prove. You just need to continue becoming. One honest step at a time. And if you're ready to keep walking this path with intention, then stay connected to this space. Because here, you're not being told who to be. You're being reminded to discover it for yourself. This is last call for the chosen. And this moment might be the one where you finally chose yourself. And the truth is, choosing yourself doesn't always feel empowering in the moment. Sometimes it feels like standing alone. It feels like holding your ground when it would be easier to agree. Like staying quiet when you could easily explain yourself just to keep the peace. Like walking away from something that still has pieces of your heart in it, simply because you know it no longer aligns with who you're becoming. That's the kind of strength people don't talk about. The quiet decisions. The unseen discipline. The moments where no one is watching, but everything inside you is shifting. Because at this level, growth is no longer about what you show the world. It's about what you refuse to ignore within yourself. You start noticing how your inner voice has changed. It's no longer as critical, no longer as chaotic. There's more space now, more clarity between your thoughts. And even when doubt shows up, it doesn't control you the way it used to. You observe it, you question it, you move through it instead of becoming it. And that right there is a different level of awareness. Because most people don't realize how much of their life is driven by unexamined thoughts. But you're starting to see them for what they are. Just thoughts, not commands, not absolute truths. And that realization gives you something powerful. Choice. The choice to pause. The choice to respond instead of react. The choice to redirect your focus instead of getting pulled into every emotion that passes through you. And the more you practice that, the more stable you become. Not emotionally numb, but emotionally grounded. You feel things deeply, but you're no longer overwhelmed by them. You experience life without losing yourself in it. And that balance, that's something most people spend years trying to understand. But you're already stepping into it. Slowly, quietly, but steadily. And here's something you need to hear clearly. You don't need everyone to understand this version of you. You don't need validation from people who only knew your past. Because growth will always confuse those who are used to the old you. They might question your silence. They might misinterpret your distance. They might even think you've changed in a negative way, simply because you're no longer accessible in the same way you used to be. But that doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're no longer available for everything. And that's a necessary boundary. Because not every connection is meant to grow with you. Some were only meant to meet you at a certain level, and that's okay. You don't have to carry everything forward, you just have to carry what aligns. And let the rest be part of your past, without resentment, without regret, just with understanding. Because every experience shaped you, even the ones that felt like setbacks, even the ones that left you questioning everything. They all added something. They all revealed something. And now, you're finally in a place where you can see it. Not as chaos, but as preparation. Preparation for a version of you that's more aware, more intentional, more aligned. So don't underestimate where you are right now. Even if it doesn't look like much from the outside. Even if it feels slow compared to others. Because what you're building, it's internal. And anything built internally lasts longer than anything built for appearance. So stay patient with yourself. Stay honest with yourself. And most importantly, stay committed to yourself. Because at the end of all this, what you're really creating is a life that actually feels like yours. Not one shaped by pressure. Not one driven by comparison. But one that reflects your true direction, your true pace, your true values. And that kind of life doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. It just needs to be real. So if you've come this far, if you've stayed through every word, every pause, every moment of reflection, then take this as your confirmation. You're not here by accident. You're here because something in you is ready. Ready to stop ignoring yourself. Ready to stop settling. Ready to step fully into who you're becoming, without hesitation, without apology. And if you're ready to keep moving forward like this, then don't let this be just another video you forget. Let it be a moment you remember. A moment where something clicked. A moment where you decided, no more going back. So stay connected, stay aware, and keep choosing growth even when it feels uncomfortable. Because this path, it may be quiet, but it leads somewhere real. This is last call for the chosen. And this time, you didn't scroll past yourself, and after a while you begin to notice something that's hard to explain to anyone who hasn't felt it. Peace, but not the kind you used to chase. Not loud happiness, not constant excitement. Not a perfect life with no problems, a quieter kind of peace. The kind that shows up when your mind isn't fighting itself anymore. When you're no longer trying to be two different people at once. The one the world expects and the one you actually are. That internal conflict, it starts to fade. And in its place, there's alignment. You start waking up without that same heaviness. You move through your day with a little more clarity. You don't feel the need to rush every decision or explain every choice. You're not trying to control everything anymore. You're learning how to trust your own pace. And that changes how you experience life. Because when you stop forcing everything, you start noticing what naturally fits, what flows, what feels right without needing constant validation. And you begin to realize something important. Not everything is meant to be chased. Some things are meant to be built. Slowly, intentionally, without pressure. And that includes you. The version of you that you're becoming right now isn't something you rush into existence. It's something you allow. Through consistency, through awareness, through choosing again and again what aligns, even when it's not the easiest option. And yes, there will still be moments where you feel uncertain. Moments where the old patterns try to pull you back. Moments where you question if this quieter path is really leading anywhere. But those moments don't define you anymore. They pass, and you remain stronger than before, more grounded than before, more aware than before, because you've already seen what happens when you ignore yourself. And you're not going back to that. Not fully, not for long. And that's the difference now. You might stumble, but you won't stay lost. You might doubt, but you won't stay disconnected. Because something in you has already shifted too deeply to return to who you were. And that shift, it's not temporary. It's foundational. So even if no one else sees it yet, even if your life on the outside still looks the same, understand this: you are not the same person anymore. And that matters more than anything visible. Because everything external eventually follows what's built internally. Your decisions will change. Your boundaries will strengthen. Your direction will become clearer. Not all at once, but step by step. Choice by choice. Moment by moment. So don't underestimate these quiet phases. They're not empty. They're essential. They're where your identity stabilizes, where your mindset resets, where your life begins to move in a direction that actually reflects who you are, not who you were trying to be. And one day, you'll look back at this version of yourself, the one who paused, the one who questioned, the one who stayed when it would have been easier to escape. And you'll realize this was the turning point. Not something dramatic, not something everyone noticed, but something real, something lasting, something that changed everything from the inside out. So if you're still here, still listening, still feeling this in a way you can't fully explain, then take this as your final reminder. You don't need to have it all figured out right now. You just need to keep showing up for yourself, honestly, consistently, without pretending, because that alone will take you further than forcing anything ever could. And if this message stayed with you, if it reached you in a way most things don't, then don't break that connection. Be part of something that continues to remind you of who you're becoming. Subscribe to Last Call for the Chosen. Stay close to this space. And more importantly, stay close to yourself. Because this is just the beginning. And even as this beginning unfolds, there's one more layer most people never prepare you for. The responsibility that comes with awareness. Because once you see clearly, once you recognize your patterns, your triggers, your direction, you can't unknow it. You can't go back to moving through life on autopilot without feeling it. And that's where real discipline begins. Not forced discipline, not rigid control, but a quiet, consistent commitment to yourself. To pause when you need to pause. To walk away when something doesn't feel right. To choose growth even when comfort is calling you back. Because comfort will call you in subtle ways. It will remind you of how easy it used to be to ignore things, to go along with situations, to avoid the effort of change. And for a moment, that will feel tempting. But then something inside you will respond differently now. It will remind you how far you've come, how much clarity you've built, how much self-respect you've started to develop. And suddenly, going back won't feel like relief. It will feel like resistance. Resistance to who you've already become. That's how you know this shift is real. Because your standards have changed, not just for others, but for yourself. You expect more from your time, more from your focus, more from the way you show up in your own life. And that expectation isn't pressure, it's alignment. It's you finally recognizing that your energy is valuable, that your attention shapes your reality, that your choices, repeated daily, quietly build the life you're living. So you become more intentional with your thoughts, with your words, with your actions. Not perfectly, but consciously. And over time, that consciousness becomes your new normal. You stop needing reminders like this as often, because you become your own reminder. In the way you move, in the way you decide, in the way you no longer abandon yourself for temporary comfort. And that's the moment everything truly changes. Not when life becomes easier, but when you become steadier. Because a steady mind, a grounded perspective, a clear sense of self, those things don't break easily. They don't depend on circumstances. They don't disappear when things get difficult. They adapt, they hold, they guide you forward even in uncertainty. So when challenges come, and they will, you won't react the same way anymore. You won't collapse into confusion. You won't lose yourself trying to control everything. You'll pause. You'll observe. You'll respond with intention instead of impulse. And that right there, that's growth in its most real form. Not loud, not dramatic, but undeniable. So don't look for constant signs that you're changing. Look at how you handle things now compared to before. Look at how you think, how you react, how you recover. That's where your progress lives. That's where your transformation is happening. Quietly, consistently, without needing approval. And if you can recognize that, if you can truly see how far you've already come, then you'll understand something powerful. You were never as stuck as you thought. You were just unaware of your own movement. But now you can see it. Now you can feel it. Now you can trust it. So keep going. Not in a rushed way, not in a pressured way, but in a real way. At your own pace, with your own awareness guiding you forward. Because the life you're building, it's not meant to impress everyone. It's meant to feel right to you. And that's a standard worth protecting. So stay grounded, stay aware, and keep choosing the version of yourself that feels honest, over the version that simply feels easy. This is last call for the chosen. And this time, you're not just listening anymore, you're becoming. And now, this is where it settles, not as an ending, but as a quiet understanding inside you. You don't need to force anything anymore. Not your growth, not your healing, not your direction. Because what was meant to shift in you has already started shifting. And what remains is your responsibility to continue it gently, not with pressure, not with urgency, but with awareness. There will still be days where you feel uncertain, days where your thoughts get loud again, days where the old version of you feels close enough to touch. That doesn't mean you've gone backwards. It means you're still human, still learning, still integrating everything you've realized. And in those moments, you don't abandon yourself. You don't judge yourself. You return to awareness. Even if it's just for a second, that second is enough to bring you back. Because you're no longer who you were when you started this journey. Something inside you has already crossed a line it can't uncross. A line of awareness, a line of self-recognition, a line where pretending doesn't feel comfortable anymore. And that matters more than any external validation you could ever receive. So from here, you don't need a big transformation. You need consistency, small choices, honest choices, choices that match what you now know about yourself. And slowly, those choices build a life that feels aligned from the inside out. Not perfect, but real. And that realness is what gives you peace. Not everything will make sense immediately. Not everything will feel easy. But you will feel more you in your own life than you did before. And that is the goal you didn't even know you were moving toward. So if this message stayed with you until the end, then take it simply as a mirror, not telling you who to become, but reminding you of who you already started becoming. No pressure to be more, no expectation to prove anything, just awareness and forward movement, at your own pace, in your own way. And when you forget, come back to this feeling, not the words but the feeling, the calm clarity underneath everything, because that is you, without noise. This is last call for the chosen, and this is your reminder. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to keep returning to yourself.